All right, are we on?
Still thinking.
Okay.
Cassie, can you see it on YouTube yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
Now you are.
All right, are we on?
Still thinking.
Okay.
Cassie, can you see
You're
it on
live. You're live and ready to go.
Welcome to the Sassfras Club. We are so glad you're here. Thank you for joining us. I brought my kids along.
Now you are.
Because we have some incredible animals here today. And we are going to meet them in just a moment. But before we do, I want to say,
You're live and ready to go.
welcome to the Sassfras Club. We are so glad you're here. Thank you for joining us. Hang on one moment. It's along.
Now you are.
Because we have some incredible animals here today. And we're going to meet them in just a moment. But before we do, I want to say,
You're live and ready to go.
welcome to the Sassfras Club. We are so glad you're here. Thank you for joining us. Hang on one moment. It's along.
Now you are.
Some incredible animals here today. And we're going to meet them in just a moment. But before we do, I want to say,
You're live and ready to go.
welcome to the Sassfras Club.
I think all of us need to be muted except for Jen. And Jen, if you have any audio running, that will probably help.
Okay. All right. Okay, thank you all for your patience. Little technical glitch. So we're going to take a moment before we get started with our guests and think about something that we care about. What is something in your life that you care about, something that's important to you? And when we think about these things we care about, we want to keep them safe. We don't want anything bad to happen to them. And we want other people to care about them. So we have some animals here today that have people that love them and care about them. And so if you're afraid of these animals, that's okay. That's a totally natural emotion. I have things I'm afraid of. Are you guys afraid of something? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm really afraid of lightning. And I think we can all think of something that we're afraid of. That's okay. We just want you to listen. Open your ears, open your minds, and listen to these people who have a lot of good information. If you have questions, please type them in the comments, and we're going to try and get to as many as we can. If we don't get to them, we'll try and get to them later. We just ask that you're respectful today and share what you've learned today with someone else. Okay? So with that, I'm going to introduce my first guest, who's a good friend of mine, and he has one of my favorite animals. And when you see this animal, if you are wanting to go, ew, can we change that to, ooh, that's interesting. Can we do that? All right, cool.
Ooh, that's interesting.
All right, welcome, Craig.
Thank you, Jennifer. It's good to be here. I brought my very special friend, Skeeter the possum, with me. And I'll show you guys her very pretty face. She's very sweet. I've had her since she was a wee little baby, about this big, about as big as a mouse. I actually contacted you, Jen, as soon as I found her, because I know you've done wildlife rehabilitation, and I'm like, how do I take care of her? And you told me about how to tube feed her, and I was able to successfully do that, obviously. And she has been part of the family ever since. So I have the slide presentation so that I can just kind of share the evolution of Skeeter. If you can share that. So that's Skeeter. The first moment that I found her, she was underneath a pear tree. Baby possums tend to ride on their mother's backs, and sometimes they fall off and the mother doesn't even realize it. And therefore there are a lot of orphan possums out there, and I consider myself blessed to have found her. She's obviously, as you can see, when I found her, I just felt like I needed to take care of her. It wasn't easy. You have to tube feed baby possums because the mother has very specialized nipples, so they don't suckle on a traditional bottle. So the tube feeding does make it difficult to raise them, for sure. But yeah, she was very tiny when I first got her, as you can see. So that's what it looks like to tube feed them. You know, when they're that small, and you have to put the tube down the right passageway because they have an airway and then they have an esophagus, and you got to make sure you get it down the right pathway. So it's nothing to take lightly to take on a baby possum when they're that small. And I just wanted to show that, I mean, she has really grown and evolved to enjoy the other animals in my house. They trust her, she trusts them. She's developed friendships with the other animals. And a lot of times you think of possums as being mean and hissing and, you know, angry, dirty animals, and really and truly they're not. When they hiss at you, that's only because that's all they have is a defense mechanism. They're either gonna what's called play possum, which is to play dead, or they're going to hiss to try to intimidate you, you know, showing off those 52 teeth that they have. But I mean, when I first found Skeeter, that first picture that you saw, she was hissing at me the first moment I saw her. And that was her defense mechanism. So really and truly, I mean, I just picked her up after she hissed at me. I thought it was kind of cute. So possums are very beneficial animals, ecologically speaking. They eat a lot of insects. They are kind of the cleanup crew of the forest, where, you know, they'll be scavenging, they'll eat live things, they eat a lot of parasites like ticks. They really are beneficial, and we should treasure them and support their survival. Unfortunately, we see them a lot as roadkill, and there's different reasons for that. Number one, their coloration blends with the color of the road, so it's hard for people to see them. They're nocturnal, they're out at night. And they're not fast. They don't react quickly. I mean, I take Skeeter on walks without a leash. That's because she could not run me if she tried, and she doesn't try to. When she does run, it's pretty funny because she wobbles back and forth. It's pretty cute. But they're slow. They're slow animals. But on the other side of that, they have this crazy tail that she can just suspend herself from. It's called a prehensile tail. And it's like a fifth appendage. She can grab onto things. She's very comfortable. It makes her feel secure, actually, you know, to be able to wrap around my hand. And that's just a way that she supports herself. If you look at her paws, I don't know if we can get a good shot of her paws, but I mean, she can grab onto things. She's very dexterous. She can pick up a grape like you would pick up an apple and just chew on it. She can pick things up. It's really pretty impressive.
So We have a question about her tail from one of our kids.
Okay, what's the question?
They want to know, is there something special on her tail that helps her to grip?
It actually is quite scaly. It
Okay.
has these scales on it that definitely help to grip onto things. And it's very muscular. It's very strong. Like, she is totally fine being suspended from her tail. She's just, as I say, hanging out. Yeah, so the scales and the muscles definitely help her to grab on.
Thank
Any
you.
other questions?
Yes, there's one more before we move on to our next guest. Why do possums eat garbage?
Possums eat garbage because they're opportunists. That means wherever there's food, they're gonna go. They have really, really strong sense of smell. So they can pick up scents from a very long distance. And they'll eat live prey. They'll eat things that are dead or called carrion. They can be scavengers. Garbage is really stinky, so it really attracts them. So yeah, that's why they eat garbage.
Thank you very much, Skeeter and Craig. And
Very welcome.
we encourage you to continue to learn about possums. And next time you see them in nature, give them their space, but observe them.
Bye, guys. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Your possum's cute.
Damn.
Okay, so our next guest, we're very excited. I've watched several of their videos. They have excellent educational videos on their website, thebugchicks.com. If I had that wrong, please correct me. But please check out their website. And thank you both so much for joining us today. They have a really cool critter today. And remember that face, not the ooh face, the woo face. All right? Welcome.
Hi.
Hey, thanks.
Thanks.
Okay.
Okay, people.
Yeah.
This
so,
is exciting.
yeah. So we're going to introduce you all to Beyonce today.
Yeah. Everyone get ready. Everyone wants to meet Beyonce. But I do have to say, Jessica and I are entomologists. So that
Mhm.
means that we are insect scientists. But actually, I'm an arachnologist. So I kind of specialize in arachnids. So
Mhm.
that is spiders, scorpions, things with 8 legs and an exoskeleton.
Yeah. And that's a group of animals that a lot of people automatically are really freaked out about.
Right.
And so one of the things that we want you guys to take away from this section that we're doing here is that these animals, even though they might look scary, and we have some ideas about why they might be scary, they're actually just animals trying to make it through the day the same way we are.
Exactly. And just because something is different, that doesn't make it bad. And now we're about to show you Beyonce. And I know that a few of you asked questions about tarantulas. So we're going to use
Yep.
Beyonce to teach about some of those questions. So this is Beyonce. She is a curly hair tarantula. And actually, people, she is laying silk on my hand as we speak.
All right.
Watch this.
Yep.
I'm going to see if I can do it, but I can pull silk out of her abdomen. It's a little hard to see because it's
Yeah.
very, very light. She does not use her silk to catch her prey.
Yeah. So this tarantula, what she does is she's an ambush predator. So she waits for something in her prey size range to come by, and then she pounces on it to catch it.
Kind of like a kitten,
Yeah.
kind of like a cat, right? So if you think about tarantulas as little cats with 8 legs, it makes it a little bit easier,
Mhm.
doesn't it? Sometimes we have to equate it with something that we already know we like in order to see that there are a lot of similarities that can open the door to fascination.
Yeah.
All
And
right?
and something too that I want to sort of pull your attention to is, do you see how she's just kind of hanging out on Christy's hand? She's kind of got her legs sort of outward. She's relaxed. She's chilled out. And we know that because you can read a spider's body language and kind of get an idea of what they're feeling. So right now she's got her legs out. She's chill. She's not really, she doesn't look tense because she doesn't have her knees pulled up over her cephalothorax. That's that top section where her eyes and her legs are.
And actually, can we show underneath the microscope?
Yeah.
People, we have a microscope and we're going to switch camera feeds really quickly here for you because I want you to see her eyes. I want you to see what we're talking about. I really love body parts. Go for it.
All right.
And so we're going to show you some of her body parts. Now we're just going to zoom in here and focus. We are focusing in on her eyes. Those are her eyes. She has 8 eyes. All tarantulas have 8 eyes in a little cluster, and they see shadow and light. They do not see a lot of complex images. Now look at her hairs here. Her hairs on her legs help her to see her way around.
Yeah, because even though she has those 8 eyes, that doesn't mean that she can really see out of them the same way that we do. She really only sees color shadow and light. And so those hairs are there all over her body so that she can sense the world around her.
Right. And now we're going to come back to our FaceTime video because I'm going to flip her upside down. We have a couple of your questions. So one of the things is, can tarantulas regrow their legs? Yes. If they are young and they lose a leg, they can regrow them the next time they molt. Molting is where they shed their exoskeletons, right? They kind of crack out of their outer bones and then they have a new, softer outer bones, and those outer bones will harden. And then that's the size they are until they molt the next time. We used to have a little blue tarantula named Grover who lost 2 legs and a pedipalp and grew them all back within 2 more molts. So at this point, if Beyonce lost a leg, she's old enough where it might not come back full size. So it all depends on how old they are. All right. That's a great question.
Yep.
Now, do tarantulas have teeth? I
great
think we're
question.
ready. We're ready to look at the thing that most people are afraid of with tarantulas. You're not afraid of their toes. You're not afraid of her.
You're not
silk
afraid of her
glands. You're not afraid of that. You're afraid of her fangs. And so I want to show you what her fangs actually look like. And we're going to talk about the function of fangs. Function is what something is used for. Okay. And if we can understand why something has fangs or
some other structure that we as people see as scary,
then we can understand a little bit more and not be so afraid.
Yeah.
If you are afraid of something, if you learn a little bit about it, you will turn your fear to fascination. I promise. And I can say this to you because I used to be terrified of spiders and now I'm an arachnologist. All right. Now I'm putting her down and now I'm going to cup over her. Hold on.
Let me
please.
get the water dish.
I got to move the water dish. Now I'm doing a special thing where I'm going to lay my hand over her like this.
Well,
and pick her up upside down.
And something too that I will point out is we don't want you guys after this session to then go out and just grab whatever spiders that you might find. Because, these animals, they do have venom, and we'll talk a little bit about that here in just a second. But, it doesn't mean that you have to be afraid of them. So if you're outside and you see them, or you're inside and you see them in your house, you can look at them and know that they're not out to get you.
And we're not talking about seeing tarantulas in your house. Tarantulas
don't end up in your house.
Tarantulas in the United States are native to the sort of southwestern United States.
Yeah.
They're not here. But now I have Beyonce upside down in my hands, and now we can see her fangs. You can see them little bit.
I'm going to point them out.
They're
just
the
a
shiny
smidge
part
right here.
But I want to see them underneath the microscope. Are you
right.
ready? Get focused. Everyone get your bodies ready to learn. Here we go.
All
These
right.
are her fangs.
And I'm going to do a pointer right
They
here.
are surrounded by little
Right there.
reddish hairs. That's what I love about tarantulas. It's almost like they wear lipstick. They all have these reddish pinkish hairs around their mouths. Now, these fangs are hollow. So they do have venom inside them. And what they do is, and can you bring me back?
Yep.
What they do is they have their fangs
go.
here. Everyone put your fangs up, even if you're at home. They've got their fangs, and what they do is they pierce into something like a cricket, but that cricket's still kind of hopping, and it's kind of hard to eat something that's trying to hop away from you. Can you imagine trying to eat a hamburger? It's trying to hop away from you. So what it does is it injects venom, and the venom does two things. The venom makes the cricket body go real still. It paralyzes the cricket, and then it liquefies the cricket, because if I have two little fangs and not really a bottom jaw, I can't really chew my food.
Yeah, because they don't have teeth
Right.
the same way we
They
do.
don't have teeth the same way. They've got little things inside their mouth.
Yeah,
that
it's
they
almost
can
like little
mash.
ridges.
Yes. They can mash the things together, but they really need their food liquefied. Now watch this. I'm going to move her back onto my hand, and actually I'm going to put this down
tilt
a
it
little.
down a
Watch
smidge.
this. So she's kind of in a torpor right now, which means she's kind of just chilling out. It's like if you flip a chicken over. But if we do this and gently release, she starts to walk again. Do you see that? There we go. Now, last question. Do all spiders spin webs?
Great question. The answer is no. And I think Christy mentioned that a little bit earlier too, about how Beyonce doesn't use a web to catch her food. What Beyonce does is she will actually, so she's the ambush predator, right? She catches her food by pouncing on it. And then she will lay kind of like a bed of silk in her container.
And we used to have a tarantula that made a dinner plate of silk. She would catch a little cricket, and then she would lay silk in a little circle, and because it becomes like a clean, sterile, controlled environment for her to focus on eating her food. And she can also feel like little triggers or like guitar strings. She can feel if something approaches her while she's focused on eating her food. Silk vibrates like a guitar string, and that's how spiders use it as an extension of their bodies. And I think that
Oh, I was going to say, and they also use it to make like cocoons and hammocks for themselves. Not cocoons, but like hammocks and like little like interior decorating.
Right. And they wrap their egg cases in silk as well. People, Beyonce, so good. Yay, Beyonce, wave your hand, Beyonce, say bye. She's waving her hand.
She's waving at y'all.
Thank you so much, Beyonce. That was so cool. Oh my gosh. Well, I hope you all enjoyed meeting Beyonce and Skeeter. We have one, can you all hear me? Okay. We have one more special guest here from one of our staff members who's going to be with him, and Liz.
I'm here.
All right, we're excited.
Alright. So my name's Melissa. I work at Cincinnati Nature Center, usually with lots and lots and lots of school kids every year. This year's a little different, but before I bring my animal out, I'll give you a couple clues about what it is. I can hold this one in one hand. The first one I ever saw, no way could I hold it in one hand, because it was stretched out across the sidewalk when I was with my students, when I was teaching in the classroom. And I thought it was a hose. I thought our maintenance fellow left the hose out. So I think that might be a good clue. These are excellent climbers. I didn't used to know much about them because my dad didn't love them. My mom didn't love spiders. So those are kind of the two common things we hear about people being nervous about. This friend is my favorite of the ones we have. Don't tell the others. So I'm going to pull out our snake. Snakes are very hard to get on camera because they're a little shy. Sam's giving me a thumbs up, so you can definitely see. So this is one of our education snakes. His name is Radisson. He's very cute. I know not everyone agrees, but he's so sweet. He has a lot of character. I'll say that. He's still our youngest snake that we have. So he's about the age of a second grader. So he's still learning a lot. He's still growing. I can still hold him on one hand. And just like Jess and Christy were talking about functions, you can look at a snake and how it's holding on to my hand like this to learn about what it does. So we try and keep our hands stretched out when we hold him so that he feels like he is climbing a tree. Because that's what snakes are really, really good at. They can even climb like a brick wall if they wanted to, if there was enough spaces in between. They're amazing. They've got these big muscles underneath. Let's see if I can get you up on so that's his belly. And if we use words like belly, it makes them seem a little sweeter. So think about the words you're using when you're describing animals like this. We have a lot of students who have used the word ooh when they've seen this. And usually they come out on the other side saying, oh my gosh, they actually are really, really cool. So I know we had some questions. One of my favorites was, why don't snakes have legs? And my own 3-year-old asked me the same question. They don't have legs because they don't need them. They don't need legs. They've got, watch how he holds himself up there. They've got amazing muscles to help them crawl. They also have to kind of sneak through really tiny holes sometimes. And if you had legs on the outside, it would be harder to get through tiny holes. So they're chasing around things to eat. Come here, Radisson. He's exploring. That fit through that had tiny holes, which brings to another question. Somebody asked, why are they called rat snakes? I bet you could guess. If you think about your favorite food, think about your favorite food. Now, what if you were named after your favorite food? What would your name be? It would be actually really fun if you put that in the comments. What would your name be if you were named after your favorite food? Mine might be like Melissa Granola, something like that. But this is an eastern rat snake, or they were also known as black rat snakes. They're really good at eating rats and mice and chipmunks. I saw one eat a chipmunk in my backyard. And animals that bring diseases and illnesses to humans sometimes, they eat them. So if you find a snake in your yard or near your home or at your school, that means they're taking care of hand sanitizing your space, essentially. We're all using lots of hand sanitizer. They're kind of doing that work for us. So that's kind of an amazing thing about these snakes is we forget if we find them somewhere, it means they're doing a really important job. Sam's giving me a yes. Sam, you are my best cheerleader right now. And it took me a while to learn to love snakes and spiders because I had grown-ups in my life who didn't love them. We were outside all the time when I was young. But between me watching a scary spider movie as a kid and seeing adults who maybe weren't in love with these animals, it took me a while to figure out how to love them. So I would suggest if you're interested, just like I think Craig said earlier, try and learn some interesting things about these animals. What makes them amazing? What's really strange about them? That's the stuff that hooked me in and helped me learn to love them. And now this is my buddy. This is my buddy. Do we have other questions about Radisson or any other? How old? About a second grader. When I started, I think he came here about 7 years ago-ish. And he was, can't see my fingers, from my pinky to this finger. He was really little, teeny tiny, very shy. Some folks had rescued him because the eggs of him and his siblings were mixed in with some mulch. And the people who were moving the mulch around didn't realize that was in there. So they pitchforked the mulch and the eggs went scattering down onto the ground. So if they had not rescued him, those eggs probably wouldn't have made him. So they brought him to us as an education animal. So he is spunky. He's got some attitude. He's pretty fun. Each of our snakes has different personalities, but he's probably about 7 or 8 years old now. He's a good eater too. He didn't used to be.
We just got a really good question for the bug chicks, and this is a good question for everyone. Actually, do tarantulas make good pets? But before we have the bug chicks answer, do snakes make good pets? What do you think?
That is a good question. So that's a 2-part answer. Yes, they can be really good pets. And I know people with snakes as pets, but you should not enter that situation lightly because they live a really, really long time. So snakes, turtles, you're looking for a reptile. Picture yourself going to college or going on to work your job as an adult and still taking care of that same animal that you had when you were 6. They're probably going to be around. So we do see a lot of animals that were really fun for like 5 years. And then, but I have to move on to my next phase of life. So can somebody take this? So I would suggest visiting a rescue if you're really interested in getting a snake. And I don't know how that applies to tarantulas. I'll let the ladies answer about that, but that would be my, same thing goes for classrooms. Classroom pets should be things you're ready to take care of a long time. Jess and Christy, do you have anything about?
That's a great point,
Mhm.
Melissa. So Beyonce could live up to 30 years. So we are going to retire with Miss Beyonce
And still, yeah, we
and
will
still be
have
taking
her.
care of her. So here's the deal also. It's really exciting to have what people would call an exotic pet. But you have to understand that you have to get these animals captive bred.
Mhm.
You can't go out into the wild and grab something and bring it in and put it in a cage. Also, if you get something from a pet store where they have paid people to go out into nature and take them from all over the world, that's really damaging to populations of animals and also to the livelihoods of the people who live near those animals in other parts of the world.
Yep.
So Jessica and I are very careful with all of our animals. We really try to get things that are captive bred, which means they're being raised by humans from egg. They've got the mating down and then the eggs, and then they sell the babies, right?
Yep.
So that's captive breeding.
And another thing too is you should be careful, especially if you were like a first time tarantula pet owner, what species you get, because some species are sort of more intense than others. And that doesn't mean that they're bad. You know, it just means that, you know, in their natural habitats, they had to work to take down more intense prey and also to avoid being eaten themselves.
So some are more aggressive than others,
Mhm.
some are more defensive than others. I'll use that word.
Mhm.
Some you cannot hold, some
Yeah.
you cannot handle safely. Some are jumpy. We have jumping tarantulas because they live in the trees and they're super sweet, but they jump. So if you
And
are,
they're fast.
and they're fast. So if you don't have what we call tarantula zen, they're not a great pet for you. If you're a little freaked out and you get a jumping tarantula, that's not going to work for you. It's not going to be good. So you need to do your research.
Mhm.
And if you are interested in keeping arthropods, anything with an exoskeleton, as a pet, please reach out to us. We have a really great resource that I wrote all about keeping them in the classroom and keeping them in your home. Tips and tricks to help you keep them healthy and keep you safe.
Mhm.
Thank you all so much for joining us today. I really enjoyed everyone's animals and all the good information, the great questions. If we did not answer your question today, or we didn't talk about an animal that you're afraid of, we hope that you go and find a book or find information. There's lots of good information out there on animals, and we hope you continue to learn and explore and share what you've learned. And if you feel differently about these animals today after learning about them, will you tell us about it? Thank you all so much.